broadcast.
All right.
All right, there he is. Hi, Ronnie. How's it going?
Going pretty good, Mike. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Are you off work now?
Now I'm still on work. I'm just taking the lunch break finally.
Oh, okay. So, hang on one second. Let me put this link up on the page.
Oh, you're good.
I don't know how many people will get to follow the video, but we'll put it up there and see if anybody joins us.
All right.
Okay. So anyway, now you telling me that I was looking for people that were pro gun control, and you were telling me that I guess you got some gun control ideas, but you're not necessarily liberal. Or so anyway, go ahead and follow up on what it was you were telling me.
More or less, I come from a background that should be liberal, but I'm not. So I'm hyper conservative on a lot of things. And with gun control, more or less, I look at a couple things. I'm real big on studying the history of politics as well as religion and other things. And my big thing, like with the age requirement being lifted, things like that I do believe in just because the age of maturity. Um,
Well,
Other than that,
let me ask you a quick question about that.
yeah,
So you think the age limit should be raised from 18? Is that what you're thinking?
I do feel, I mean, it's circumstantial, but I do believe, yes, that it should be
Okay,
raised from
so
18.
what about the fact that you've got guys that are 18 joining the military and going out? I
Well,
mean, they can go out and fight for the country and use guns way more powerful than what we use, in uh, here in civilization. But why is it that they're not? They can go over there and fight for our country at 18, but they can't carry a gun. That doesn't make any sense to me.
well, more, that's why I'd say it's circumstantial. One being, and also I have some feelings on 18-year-olds going into the military, but that's a totally different subject. But with the individuals that are more likely to go into the military, they're more mature in mindset usually because they're willing to make a decision that is possibly life changing for them. So people like that would fall
Actually,
into that circumstantial category.
I'm not sure I agree with that one.
Well,
Just because people join the military doesn't necessarily make them more mature. The military
well,
might make them more mature,
some. That's why I
but
say some are more mature.
they do what?
That's why I was saying some are more mature. Like I have a buddy who is just re-enlisted. He's going back at 32, and I wouldn't trust him with a pixie stick. But that's a different story. Um, More or less, the reason I believe in the age being moved up, you know, if you figure you go back into the 1700s, 1600s, or even the 1800s, people were more mature at a younger age in comparison to nowadays.
Yeah.
Uh, I have customers, a lot of them are German Baptist in the community where I'm at, and there's 16-year-olds in the German Baptist community that run the farm. They run family business and everything else. And these are kids still, but their maturity is considerably higher than the kids where I live at in the city. And being young, I have nephews that are almost my age, and seeing their maturity level compared to what I grew up in, it's a lot different from when I was growing up to now. I guess you'd say, due to whether it be media or whatnot, kids don't grow up the way they used to. I'm pretty
Well, no,
sure.
it's not. The reason it's different than how old are you again?
28.
You're 28. Okay. The reason it's different from the way you were, the way it was when you were a kid, and the way it was when I was a kid. I'm 52, and the way it was, the further back you go, there was a lot more responsibility put on kids back
Exactly.
then. Kids today have no responsibility. They're not responsible for anything. They don't have. I mean, they're not all kids, because there are kids, rural kids, kids that are raised on farm and working families, things like that. they tend to be a little bit more grown up because they're brought up with responsibility and all that kind of good stuff. Kids today just are not. As far as you said that you think they ought to raise the age. I'm not against that. I mean, if you want to raise the age from 18 to 21 on joining the military or whatever, but what we're doing is we're setting an age limit that we're saying this is what age you have to be considered an adult. Now, as an adult, you're responsible for yourself. Period. If you're responsible for being able to make a legal decisions for yourself, you can sign a note and take out a loan. You are legally responsible for your own actions. Period. Okay.
Yep.
If we're going to set that age for 18 or 21 or whatever you want to set it at, doesn't matter to me. Then everything needs to fall within that. I mean, if we're going to say you're an adult, you can drink, you can join the military, you can get a job, you can get a credit card, whatever. You can do all this stuff because you're an adult. You can also be charged as an adult. If you go out and commit murder, then you're charged as an adult, not a juvenile anymore. This is where we're drawing the line. And as far as I'm concerned, all those things should fall within, the same age. If you can do one, you can do all of them. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's like I've also, before I got in the industry I'm in now, I used to work in bars, and like with alcohol, that one, working in the bar, a lot of people kind of mask it, but there's more underage drinking than there is overage drinking, sadly. And you see what goes on there, and that's another one of those things where somebody's underage doing those things, the bar is responsible and liable for what happens to those people.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm all for raising the age on many things, or more or less punishing those who do things before that age illegally. I mean, that's why I come into the whole circumstantial side, because you've got guys that enlist at 18 years old, or they actually sign up at 17, enlist at 18, and some of them see war before they're 19. And that changes them as a person, and they have to understand their responsibilities, because they're not responsible for themselves if they go overseas. They're responsible for everybody in the platoon with them.
Yeah, well, people need to understand that it's not that they're mature because they went into the service. They're mature because the service matured them. People go into the service and they come out as a man.
Oh yeah, I learned from my father on that one. It'll bring out the worst in you, but the best in you all at the same time. So it brings out your true colors as a person.
That's the responsibility. The things that we're not getting, kids growing up are not getting. They're not getting the responsibility because, well, they're not responsible for anything. When you go into the military, all of a sudden they're getting all that responsibility that years ago, kids got growing up. They had to do part of the work around the house. They played when there wasn't nothing else going on. They didn't sit around and play on the Xbox all day and, waste their life in their room, and they had things to do. I'm curious, though, you said you brought up the gun control. What is it you think that you say that there should be some kind of a gun control?
Well, more or less, and this is where I actually do feel about gun control, aside from age limits. Now, I'm pretty sure we both understand the Constitution the same. The first 10 amendments for the Constitution were rights given to the people and limiting the rights of the government. And I'm totally against government making any changes or addendums to those amendments. But as society as a whole,
well, hang on,
we've got to,
as far as making changes or addendums to that, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. Just like if somebody wants to take away guns, the first thing they're going to have to do is repeal the Second Amendment, and that's what government has to do. And it's set up so that they can't just do it willy-nilly. They got to have everybody's got to say, okay, yeah, let's do this. In other words, it's like what 3/4 of the states have to agree with it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It has to be a convention of the states of at least 3/4 of the country.
Right.
And that's what I was saying. It's on the people to decide how we go about this. It's not given to the bureaucrats, because bureaucrats are only going to change laws for personal agenda, not for the agenda of constituents. And that's why I say, well, I stray off course a little bit here, but gun control wise, I do believe there should be better background checks. I do believe that there should be a system set in place for those who are violent or aggressive toward others for no apparent reason, whether it be mental illness or just that disposition. I don't believe in taking any of the guns away or banning any guns, because let's face it, a lot of the guns they talk about banning don't exist. They haven't existed in general population since 1986, and anyone who does own them has had more background checks.
Have you seen the latest bill that they've been trying to pass?
The fixed NICS?
Well, no, they're calling it an assault weapons ban, but as it turns out, it's more of a
semi-automatic weapons ban.
Semi-automatic weapons ban.
Yeah, I've seen that. I actually had wrote the state governor and a couple of the other state representatives here in Ohio, because there was a proposition for anything capable of firing semi-automatically or capable of holding 10 or more rounds,
right,
to be banned, which it's an absolutely asinine law to even attempt to pass, because none of the people who have ever tried to pass these laws has ever had to fire a gun at somebody or seen what people do when a gun's fired at them. So for them to try and bureaucratically pass a law, it's just not right.
So you're not necessarily for gun control as much as you just you are for doing something about the crazy people.
More or less. Now, something that actually would be defined under gun control that I am for, and this goes back to actually parents. Any parent who possesses or controls a firearm that has young children in their household incapable of understanding or comprehending the dangers of a firearm should have to lock those firearms up to prevent any possibility of that child getting access to it.
Well, and I disagree with that somewhat, but mostly because as a parent, and right now I'm a grandfather. I've got a little 2-year-old who I keep a gun. I keep a gun right by my chair, and it's in a drawer. And right now, he could probably get into it if he really wanted to, but he's never really left alone when he's over here anyway. He's always, we're always right there with him. We don't let him get out of sight, because he does get into things, whether it be something dangerous or just something we don't want him messing with. He's just a toddler, and they do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
My daughter, on the other hand, when she was very young, one of the things that I was afraid of, and what kids do, is they get interested in things they don't understand. And guns are something that, it's something that makes them go, ooh, what is that? Because they haven't seen it before. So one of the first things I did with my daughter when she was old enough, which was, I don't remember how old she was. She may have been 5. She was still pretty young. But one of the things I did was take her outside with a pistol, and I had her sit right with me. She stood right in front of me right here while I put the gun out in front, and she watched me shoot right behind the gun. And I let her put her hands on the gun, and I put my hands on it so she could feel it. And we shot a milk jug or something full of water. And I did that specifically, not because this is, woohoo, country redneck stuff, this is what we do. I did that because I wanted to either scare her enough that she wouldn't play with that, or she would see this is what it does. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? I want her to see the damage that it does. And when it made that loud noise and that big water jug blew up, her eyes got big and she went, wow.
Oh, yeah.
And from that point on, she was never showed any kind of a curious interest in the gun. But when she got older, she asked to go shooting with me. So once I did start taking her out and taking her shooting, to go shoot at targets or whatever, she actually was pretty good. And the strange thing was, you wouldn't think this of a girl, but her favorite gun was a .357 Magnum. It's not even my favorite gun. Ain't nobody wants to hold a cannon, but she liked it. She liked the .357 Magnum. So anyway, my point was, when you lock guns up, and I got off subject here, but when you lock your guns up, I'm assuming you have guns in your house, and
Yes,
they're there for protection in case somebody breaks in the house. I've got a gun safe in there. It's on the other end of the house from where I sleep. But if I've got my guns locked up, what am I supposed to do when I wake up and somebody's, rummaging through the house coming towards my room? I don't have time to get out of bed, go, pull it out of the closet and get it out of a lockbox, or go to the other end and pull it out of my, safe with a rotating dial that I have to unlock. Yeah, I mean, it's just not practical, and that's dumb. Nobody does that. That would be ignorant. The military doesn't keep their weapons locked in a lockbox in the back of their car until they get ready to go storm the city or whatever the hell it is they do. It just you learn gun safety is what you do. And as far as I'm concerned, if you have children in your house, one of the things you should be teaching them, just like you teach them not to stick a fork in a socket, you also teach them there are things that you don't touch. Okay, you do not touch this. And if you need to, you take them out and show them why. Take the curiosity out of it so that they're not curious about it. That's how I feel about it, because I'm not going to lock my guns up in my house and not have access to them.
I understand that 100%. Well, it's like this. You or I, we would have more experience around them, and we understand what they're capable of, and we understand more or less how to explain what they are, what they do. My 3-year-old, I can actually, anytime I've gone to the range, if I come home and I'm cleaning my guns, he knows, you don't go near me. You don't go near the guns. They're on the table. That's mine. They're not.
Have you ever let him see you shoot it?
Yes. Fortunately,
what was his reaction?
It actually scared the crap out of him just from the noise.
Really? So after he's seen you shoot it, does he still come around you looking at the guns going, ooh?
If I have them out, he might look at them. He doesn't make it a point to come near them. He knows I'm holding it. Sometimes he'll ask if he can touch it, which is rare and seldom that he does that anymore. And I always tell him no, just because I try to treat.
Really?
I go by the range policy of treat every gun as if it's loaded, and I try to have him keep that same mentality.
I agree with that, but I would suggest you take him and when he starts talking about wanting to see it, take him out and shoot it around him. Let him be near you when you shoot it. Let him understand it. When he just like I did with her, it made a difference. It changed the attitude she had towards it being interesting and curious to, okay, now I know what that is, and that's something I'm not going to mess with.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And what I was going to get at, I don't say this like as in there's more people that are careless nowadays in the consideration of how they carry a firearm, and those are the people I'm more concerned about locking those firearms up around children. I've got a sister, she's 26, I believe now, and she has one firearm. She has 2 children. She leaves the gun sit in her purse, and half the time she don't know where her purse is or how to find it.
Well, that's that's bad
news. Reckless at best.
Yeah.
But more people share that mentality nowadays, and sadly and unfortunately, the lower portion of my generation are more like that.
Okay, and I get that, but let me ask you this: does that, since there are so many, I'm gonna call them stupid people, since there are stupid people in this country, does that mean that we should put a blanket rule out there on all this so that we make sure that the stupid people stay safe, and then the rest of us just have to deal with the laws because stupid people can't take care of themselves?
Well, it's like this. When I say, I understand 100%, and I respect it too, because to treat somebody as if we're all dumb, like when warning labels were created, it just tells us somebody out there is not paying attention, and we should all learn from that. Not we should all have to listen to this rule because one dumbass out there decided, I'm going to lick a Tide Pod. But
you remember when you were little and you were in school and the teacher would, I don't know exactly the situation, but something would have happened where there was a rule made in maybe your class, in your gym class or whatever, where somebody did something and all of a sudden the adults said, okay, well, since this is happening, from now on, nobody's going to do this.
Yeah.
In other words, they put this blanket rule up there because a few people are over here, I don't know, drawing on the chalkboard while the teacher's out of class, or during lunch or whatever. So now on, from now on, since everybody wants to do this during lunch while I'm not in here, I'm going to stop people from coming in the class and studying and doing things that they would normally do because other people are screwing it up. You understand what I'm saying?
I see that all the time.
This is exactly what gun control is. That's exactly what, when you make a rule that applies to everybody equally, then you're basically infringing on people who haven't done anything wrong. They didn't do anything to bring this on them.
Well, that's why I'm totally against the liberal idea that just because we don't understand it and we don't like it, no one else should have it. I don't believe that. I don't believe in any capacity that that's the way to go about things, because any of the incidents that have happened that make us question the law or laws around guns, people will shoot straight from the hip and go to the what happened, not how or why it happened.
Right.
And the thing with that, and I preach it to people all the time, if you look for the problem and what happened, you're not looking for the problem at all. Because, like with the school shooting the other day, if it wasn't for the resource officer being right there, what could have came of it? And that's why I'm pro-gun. I just believe there should be more things set up in the way to prevent people who should not have them from having them. Because there's plenty of law-abiding citizens that are, their only sole purpose to own a firearm is protect their families, protect themselves, protect their neighbors. And that's part of the Second Amendment, and that's why it's there, and to protect citizens as a whole against tyranny. Are you still there? Are you still there, Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Well, I don't know if this is still live or not. My damn internet went out at the house for some reason, just died all of a sudden.
Well, from your accent, I'm guessing Tennessee?
Huh?
From your accent, I'm guessing somewhere in middle Tennessee?
No, I'm from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma? All right. Well, your accent's more Tennessee than anything.
That's a first. I haven't heard that one before. Where's your camera? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to stay up. It keeps falling down on me.
I don't know if anybody's going to be able to see this part. My internet went down, and we were doing live broadcast, but I don't know if it's still showing live broadcast now, because all I did was come over here and connect with my phone, and I don't know if that's still working or not. My damn router, something went down, so I have no internet connection.
You should have connection. We're still showing we're live.
Well, I'm trying to get to a web page to look at that. Let's see if it's still showing on the web page. Anyway, well,
you cut out again if
you are people are more anti-gun, and I want to hear their reasoning for it. You and I are pretty much on the same page about a lot of stuff, and we have a few little differences of opinion, but
oh yeah,
for the most part, we're on the same page.
Well, I will say this. I mean, I've got a couple buddies who are law enforcement, ultra conservative, and in the comparison to anything I've said, they're totally against anything I've said. But
who's that now? I'm sorry, my phone cut you off. Say that again.
You're fine. I was saying I've actually got a few friends in law enforcement that, to the comparison of anything I've said, they're totally against it. From what I've said, they're don't touch it, don't mess with it. It's been this way for hundreds of years. Leave it that way.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I just more or less I go from the common sense approach.
Well, the way I see it, I have some fairly extreme views about. I keep getting a call from my girlfriend. Yeah, I know you're calling me, and I'm sorry. Anyway, the Second Amendment, they said, everybody says, well, it was written in a time when muskets were, everybody had muskets, and that's what it was meant to do, and we didn't have machine guns and blah, blah, blah. Well, we also didn't have internet and phones and text and everything else that we claim in the free speech, So,
exactly.
Just
I'm going to try and keep the shifter here out of the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Anyway, we claim free speech, on our phone and on the internet and all this other stuff, but yet for somehow or another, guns are different.
Well, it's like what's going on in Austin right now. That's proof that anything can be used against anybody as a weapon. Somebody that's sending a bomb. A bomb does more destruction than a firearm can even begin to imagine doing. And at that, firearm's an inanimate object, and it's literally based on Newton's law. It cannot do anything without someone else operating it.
Okay, my internet's back up now.
All right. But yeah, I hate the argument people give that it's a gun problem, because it can never be a gun
problem. I agree with that. But my point is people are acting like somehow or another that the guns make a difference. And I've made this argument many times, and I think I can't understand anybody else not getting this. There are two words in there that people need to look up the definition for. One is arms, and one is infringe. Because apparently people don't understand arms could be everything from a slingshot to a tank. Arms just means weapons. It doesn't mean, small weapons. It doesn't mean shoulder-fired rockets. It means everything, not just one thing. And infringe means to limit and to restrict. So if if the wording is you have the right to bear arms without infringement. So if you are limiting or restricting anything about my guns or my weapons or my arms, then you're infringing on my rights.
You're infringing on the right.
Period. I mean, that's very simple to understand to me, but everybody seems to make it a hard argument, and they say, well, they didn't plan